All right, we are live now.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Showtime with Jordan Van Hassel and friends, right here on Hot 702.5 FM, Las Vegas. I am so excited. We have a new friend here today. He is the head of a band called Next to Midnight, and they're based out in Iowa City, Iowa. And I've never been to Iowa, so I want to talk about that. And he has the most amazing name in the world, Thaddeus Zimmerman. There's never been a cooler name before. So, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. But he has it. But his stage name is the Stranger, right? The Stranger. Did I say it right?
The Stranger, and that's it. That's it. You got
The
it.
Stranger. Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our show, The Stranger. But I still like Thaddeus Zimmerman. That's like a really cool name.
Yeah, I don't know what to say. I've never really cared for it, but I get that a lot, so I'll go with it.
So
I've
tell
been
me about.
called worse.
So tell me about. So there's like I have so many questions for you. First, I want to know about your band because Carl's our producer for all of you out there in Radio Land. Carl showed us uh, your advert, your
Oh, the
promo
promo
because
video.
you're looking for
Or should-
like a new band member. And it reminded me of being a kid in like the Elvira movies and
Yes.
the like
Oh,
and the
that.
and the
See, that,
Spingool. I grew up in Chicago. The Spingoolie adverts, and I was like, "Oh my
yep.
god!" That makes me think of when I was like a little kid watching the late night shows.
Oh,
And
that makes me so happy because I mean, that's what I'm going for. So I'm a self-identified '90s kid, and I'm a Nick kid. Like I grew up watching Nicktoons. So
huh.
I watched an interesting video on YouTube about this from a channel called In Praise of Shadows that talks about how the '90s had a lot of horror and sci-fi themed shows directed at kids. That's not the same nowadays. Like culture changes, but I grew up on a healthy diet of monsters and spooky shows. Tales from the Crypt Keeper, Are You Afraid of the Dark on Nickelodeon,
Yes.
Mighty Max. I still have all my toy collection, including my Mighty Maxes, my Battle Trolls, my Alien and Predator figures, Star Wars, Godzilla. Like, so monsters and spooky stuff and Halloween is what I've always loved. And then in high school, stuff kind of changes, right? And I am queer, so I wasn't 100% sure of it around, high school age. But when sex and all that stuff enters in, with fashion and everything, I was really drawn to goth and rock fashion because it gave men a little bit more room to, be kind of cute and fashionable, not just like so basic. Like, no offense to the basic boys, but you know what I'm saying? Like,
No, you could
so
wear
I
more
got
than just polo shirts and button downs.
Oh yeah, it's just I like playing dress up. You know what I mean? Like everyone likes to dress up, but like the stuff I'm into, like I'm more comfortable playing with a little more imagination. So this band at this point in my life is a culmination of just a celebration of all of my favorite things that have really stuck with me, which is horror movies, uh, Halloween, uh, punk rock, and rock and roll in general. And the goth in me loves hearses, and I happen to like old motorcycles and classic vehicles. So, I mean, I'm just pulling all of my elements of the things that I'm really passionate about, but I deliver it through the lens of '90s nostalgia because I know everyone like myself that grew up in that time period. We got a really special kind of childhood with our media and imagination. Spielberg, like Tim Burton, all of the really imaginative, fun ride movies like The Goonies, like all of that stuff was the '80s and '90s, and that was a really great time to have a childhood. So,
So
I
what is it about? What is it about Halloween that you love? Because I am a Nightmare on Elm Street fan. Like
Mm,
Nightmare on Elm Street is my
did you
of those
see
Nightmare Friday the 13th and Halloween. Nightmare on Elm Street is
if
my
I
thing.
if I move this, Carl? Can you zoom in? Do you see my Misfits Nightmare on Elm Street poster back there on the wall? See if I can- Yeah, I just picked that up at a convention in Cedar Rapids a few months ago. Like I
Oh, I
like to
love
get
it.
Yeah, I don't know if you can see it, but it's right here. I'm gonna move this spotlight onto it. Check that out. There we oh, there's a glare on it. Well, it doesn't matter. You can't see it. We're representing I try to represent you know, a lot of the stuff I'm a fan of. So I've got one of our band event posters last fall features the Tall Man and a 68 Cadillac Superior hearse. I'm a hearse aficionado, if you didn't know. One of our hit songs is called I Drive a Hearse. And I'm working right now. I'm waiting on a title transfer for what will be my third funeral coach. It's a 92 Cadillac Federal hearse. And that's going to be our band's, you know, delivery vehicle for when we show up to haunt your town. So, yeah.
It's like a queer station wagon.
Yeah, it's really hot. You know? Like, I tell people that are weirded out about driving a hearse, I'm like, look, these things have never been driven hard. You know, they're always taken care of, and they're always driven slow. But you're talking about a caddy with a big roomy interior and all the bells and whistles with a huge covered rear end. Like, you've got more cargo capacity than a full-size truck, and you don't have to buy a topper. They're actually pretty awesome vehicles. Like, I'm into antique furniture, and I'm always buying and selling stuff. So, like, I need a hauler, and I haven't owned my own hauler vehicle for a few years. So I'm overdue.
I used to work in that when I was getting divorced. I worked for a gallery here in New York, and it was all antique stuff. That's a really interesting, what's the word? Group of people.
Oh, I'm sure.
Because no, I just think it's a bunch of like rich hoarders who just buy and sell to each other. That was what my takeaway was.
Yeah,
a lot of rich hoarders who like.
Be funny. I sell guitars as my day job when I'm not, you know, haunting the streets of dive bars and venues around here.
No, but you were talking about antique furniture. I'm just saying like that, like that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What about it?
I'm sorry, say that again?
Oh, I just didn't understand what you're asking about antique furniture.
Oh, no. You were talking about antique furniture. And when I got divorced, I started moonlighting at this gallery we sold antiques.
Oh, it was an antique.
And I just thought it was exactly. And I just found it was an interesting group because it was really, what I learned was that it was a bunch of very rich hoarders who just sold things back and forth to each other.
I was relating that to guitars, and then I was just telling somebody today that a lot of people buy and collect guitars, but they don't ever actually even play them. So you sell guitars to some people because they want it to perform, and for other people, it's just an art piece. And we just took on like a trade of like 6 super high-end guitars recently. It was crazy, and they had never been played because it was a collector, you know. So
yeah, I never learned to play the guitar. I'm a singer, but I played the saxophone as a kid because it was like the 80s, and like the saxophone was like the thing at the time. You know, that was like the sexy instrument.
It still is. Come on, what are you talking about? It was.
The thing.
There's just not enough people playing sax these days, man. That's the institution of rock and roll. Like, we need more sax back in rock. You want to come play sax in my band? You got a spot, man.
The thing I'm mad I didn't really learn, I'm mad I never learned to properly play the piano, because I realized if I had learned to play the piano, I would have saved so much money over the course of my career.
I don't know how to play piano, but I know enough about music theory that if you master piano or you get proficient, you know, you've got a lot of other stuff pretty much mapped out for you already.
Yeah. So tell me.
On guitar, so you can get away with that on guitar because, like, I know how to play what I can play, but I don't know too much theory. You know what I mean? But guitar, you can get away with that.
Yeah. So tell me about Next to Midnight. Tell me about this band. Tell me about how the band came about. Tell me about what you all do. Tell me about it.
Oh, I'd love to. So the band officially formed. I mean, I kind of explained the spirit behind all of it. Like, I'm the sole songwriter, and currently the only cover that we perform is Pet Sematary by the Ramones, but I put my own spin on it because we punk rock it a little heavier than the Ramones did it, and I sing it kind of Danzig style. I mean, I'm yell singing a lot of it, and it's like really high energy, so it's a way harder rock version of Pet Sematary. But anyway, my originals talk about horror and fantasy elements. I have a song called Howl at the Moon that is written from the perspective of the vampire or werewolf about to turn somebody, kind of enticing them, but also warning them. And then the end of the song has like a Typo Negative-esque breakdown that's meant to symbolize like the first morning after when you realize like, oh, you're actually a filthy creature of the night. Like you made a bad decision. You know what I mean? That kind of attitude. I got a little punky, like I'm kind of a brat and I'm definitely a punk, you know, like, I mean, that's an essence of kind of who you are. Right. And I'm too old to be worried about what other people are worried about. So like, I know I'm not hurting anyone. So I'm just fine doing what I'm doing. So I don't need anyone telling me what to do, you know? So like that kind of attitude, that's fucking punk rock. Like that's what it's about. And like, I live that and sometimes it gets me in trouble, but that's fucking punk rock. Like, you know, so anyway, all these songs are written from a fun perspective, but I do kind of try to give them some substance. I mean, most of them have a lot of substance. I've got I Drive a Hearse is a fun song, right? But then I've got Goddess of Love is kind of a traditional 80s glam, like cock rock song, respectfully and admirably celebrating, you know, loving women, not in a demeaning or objectifying way. But again, like each song that I write has kind of a different flavor of rock. So I've got some pop rock, glam rock, classic rock. I've got a really cool song, Green Lady, that's about absinthe. That could have been a crossover between Rob Zombie and Typo Negative that we're working on right now. Like, oh, my newest song, Black Angel. Boy, I'm super excited about that. It is like old punk ska. I don't even know what to compare it to, but everybody, Carl's heard me play it. Everyone that hears it gets really excited, and they're like, "Oh my gosh!" Like that's probably going to be one of our hits. Like,
how did you get to where you are? Like, so are you from Iowa City, or did you get to Iowa City? Like, how did you get to where you are? Like,
okay,
where are you from?
And I kind of didn't answer your question. So I grew up. I was born in Louisville, Kentucky, while my dad was going to seminary, which is school for pastors, which was there. We moved to Manhattan, Kansas, which is where I grew up.
And he was what kind of a pastor again? I'm sorry. I know you told me.
Presbyterian.
Presbyterian, okay.
Mm-hmm. And so we lived in Manhattan, Kansas, which is a college town.
Oh, that's where that show which was so good. That show on Max. Oh fuck! Somebody Somewhere. Did you watch the show?
I haven't seen that show, but do you know what was an hour and a half down the road from my house?
What?
Fort Riley, Kansas. And I was about an hour away from Wichita, Kansas. I was about an hour and a half away from Junction City, Kansas. You know where all those places are from? Hedwig and the 80 Inch, honey. Like I lived in that world. I found that movie. Oh my God, it spoke to me.
Oh my God.
Anyways.
Well, you need to watch Somebody Somewhere. Do you know Bridget Everett? She's a big cabaret. She's like a cabaret singer here in Manhattan, in New York. I live in New York, but she's from Manhattan, Kansas, and she had it. It lasted for 2 seasons. It just got canceled this year, and it was about her going back from New York to her her Manhattan, Kansas. And it's about a bunch of queer people in Manhattan, Kansas. I think you'll love it.
Yeah, do they hang out in Aggieville? Like, does it mention Aggieville? The Wild Side? Is the Wild Side still there?
I don't remember if they mentioned Aggieville because I don't know it. You know what I'm saying? I don't know the place, so like I don't know. But it's all about Manhattan. It's all about a bunch of queer people who live in Manhattan.
To get back to answering your question, so Manhattan, Kansas did have some influence on me being a goth and being into horror. And horror punk specifically. I have distinct memories of driving or riding in the back of my parents' car when I was a preteen and then a young teen. This is when Rob Zombie had his first album, Hellbilly Deluxe, came out. This is when Antichrist Superstar was somewhat fresh, and what would have been 92, 93. So I remember seeing like legit, late 80s, early 90s goths and punks standing around outside at night in Aggieville with huge 2-3 foot tall mohawks, big long black trench coats, like the face piercings and the real traditional goth makeup. And I mean, as a kid, I wasn't scared. I thought they were cool as hell. I was like, oh my God, like you can do that and like just be out in the world like that. oh my God, I wanted to know everything about it. So when we in Manhattan, Kansas, I saw those goths, but I also got my first horror punk. Like it wasn't a horror punk, but my first real taste of like other media other than my horror movies that I was consuming and the horror cartoons was Insane Clown Posse's Great Milenko album. That cover, just that creepy looking clown, drew me in. And I bought my first like the first cassette that I bought was a Great Milenko. I still have Riddlebox on an orange plastic cassette that you can listen to. And I mean, I'm not embarrassed at this point to say, I mean, I don't know why when I was younger, some people didn't want to be associated with Ice-T, but if you haven't ever listened to the first 3 or 4 albums, the original Joker's Card albums, they're very, very well done. And they're imaginative and original. And I respect the hell out of them. But that was like the first influence because those albums, they had little skits and bumpers. You remember was common in the 90s in between songs when you listen to a CD or cassette. I don't know if people do this because I don't listen to any new music. I just listen to my groove in the 80s and 90s. Like I don't really want to live in the modern world as much anymore. Like I'm a creature of the night. You know what I mean? I'm with everything going on. You know what I mean? So,
yeah, but no, I remember like you'd have those like little interstitials in an album where there would be like a squid, like it'd be like a skit or it'd be like a little, yeah, totally.
It got my imagination going, and like I have a vivid imagination. I mean, all this stuff is my imagination. Like that's what's so much fun is I'm just living a fantasy when I'm performing. So when other people like it, they're liking like my brain. They're living in my fantasy with me and enjoying it. Like that is what is so fulfilling about it. So in Manhattan, trick or treating. I grew up. I mean, honestly, a spoiled '90s white kid. We weren't rich. But I was safe and I was sheltered, and my imagination, because of that, was able. I was like privileged. Like I had to come to terms with all that. In the last decade or so. That's a whole other issue. But like I recognize I was only able to appreciate all the things I was because, I didn't have a lot of other struggles. Now I had my mental health issues. Like I was committed by my parents for like 8 months when I was in my teens. So that's like part of my shit here too. Is like. I've always been an other. I've always known for love. I was one of the kids that really could feel it that. And I was in the research. So I've known from a really young age what it's like to be picked off, bullied, I'm part of the group, have people think that you're weird and feel misunderstood. And that's a big part of what Next to Midnight is about too. Like I am a creep and a weirdo to some people. The people that know me know that I'm not, anything dangerous or scary, but it's surprisingly scary how many adults will really jump to conclusions and treat people differently just on, what you look like. And so it's a real identity thing. And other people that feel that way, whether you're queer or whether you're just different or whether you feel like you don't fit in for whatever reason, like all of us that feel that way know what that is. And
what was it like growing up in like kind of what I consider the middle of nowhere? Like I grew up in Chicago, which is a major city and a cosmopolitan city. What was it like growing up and feeling that way? Like I went to an arts high school and like I had a boyfriend in high school, and I like all except for like 5 of the guys were gay in high school. So I didn't have that experience of like feeling like an other as a teenager. Like, what was that like? Your experience? What was that like? Your experience? In the being in the middle of nowhere as growing up queer.
So I need to clarify something on that. I've only recently like officially come out publicly, like actually in the past year. I mean, most of the people in my life have known for most of my adult life. But I wasn't out when I was younger. Now, it was obvious to other people, I think. And I knew enough by high school. Like, I remember listening to Christian Death from a compilation CD that I got at Hot Topic, like on my purple velvet bed sheets and my gothed out bedroom in high school, and like totally knowing that I was somewhere over, crossing over
Over
gender.
the rainbow.
Yeah, and so, and again, like, because that was part of the appeal, because goth fashion let you wear fishnets and vinyl pants, and I've also always had like a bubble butt, so I've always been a twink with a bubble butt. Like, let's be real, like that's just my body type. So women's pants were really the only pants that I could find that would fit well, and especially if I wanted tight fitting pants. So I started wearing women's clothes just because they fit better in middle school and high school, not because I was being queer, but because it made sense and was practical. And so as I really embraced all that, it just, everything came together, and now I'm just too old to care about anyone having a problem with it. So I just do what I want, sometimes I'll present masculine, but I pretty much just, I don't know, like I usually have sideburns and my soul patch, but I like to do my eye makeup, and I'm, something of like a spooky femboy at this point at 40. Like, I don't know what you call that, but I think that's what the current lingo is, right? Like, I'm kind of like not a spring chicken, I don't know if I'm allowed to use those words or what, but I'm just doing,
Yeah. So how did you get from Manhattan, Kansas to Iowa City, Iowa?
So in Manhattan, since I wasn't out, my childhood was spent in nature a lot. And that was a big part of my childhood being good. My imagination, trick-or-treating and Halloween, and the movies, because I didn't have a whole lot of friends. I was always a loner. I had one friend at a time. So then when people stopped liking me for whatever reason, I was alone again until I found another friend. So what changed is when we moved to Iowa, it was because my dad had found a different church that he wanted to transfer to, greener pastures or whatnot. So when we moved to West Liberty, Iowa in 1999, I saw it as a fresh start to like, oh, okay, you're going through the weird, awkward teen puberty years. And so it wasn't all bad. But when we moved here, I was excited because I'm like, okay, like I'll get to be the new kid on the block. Like I can be whatever I want. And so I tried to fit in for, I think, a month or two, but we had a Hot Topic at the Coral Ridge Mall here that had just opened 6 months before we moved here, something like that. And it was one of the better Hot Topics, as I understand. And they had, at that time, Hot Topic, people make fun of like mall goth or Hot Topic goth. But I mean, in Iowa, that was the only place here to find goth clothes. Okay. And they had some cool goth clothes. Like I got my first fishnet shirts, my first poet shirts, my first like lip service vinyl pants there. Like a lot of iconic goth staples, like Hot Topic carried that stuff back then. You just got to take my word for it. I'm sure there's pictures on the internet, but
I'm pulling them up right now. Actually.
Yeah, it had a big effect on me, but it supported me. It told me you can go shop at the commercial shopping center and buy these clothes. I'm like, well, these are clothes, so that is what I wore. I wore what I wanted to. You know what I mean? So
yeah, no, totally.
So that's part of being the other, for doing what I wanted, wearing fashion that other people didn't like. I was dealt a negative consequence, and sometimes pretty harsh or brutal. Like I was pushed down flights of stairs in high school, concrete stairs. I had a banana peel literally thrown under one of my winkle pickers one time when I was walking the hall, like in a vain attempt to make me trip, like in the cartoons, I guess. I was like, I looked back and I'm like, are you fucking serious? I'm like, you're gonna like a fucking.
You're gonna slip on a banana peel.
So I'm like, I don't know if this is like funny or like really sad, like, but fuck you, like, yeah. So it's again, it's kind of just, the idea to start taking all my experiences and package them up kind of started formulating in my mid-20s, but really my childhood in Manhattan was becoming a loner and having fantasy and horror and Halloween as a way to express myself freely in the world, right? Without the consequences, because everybody's a monster on Halloween. And I got into character. I like acted out the creature or monster I was.
What was that like? What was that like
right behind me that's hanging on the wall?
Yeah.
That was my Halloween mask when I was 10 years old. That is a 31-year-old Halloween mask. And
what was it like? I'm just curious. What was it like? All of that you were feeling and that you were wanting to express. What was it like being a preacher's son? I know I have friends who were preacher's children, and like I'm just curious, like what being a preacher's son, how does that jibe together, or what did that what was that experience like? Doing what you wanted to, you exploring yourself in the way that you want to explore, but also being a pastor's son.
So, like I kind of alluded to earlier, my dad is not really, my experience isn't like most like PKs or pastor kids. I never had to rebel from anything. Like my dad has always been supportive of everything that I've, been interested in. I've never felt ashamed or threatened or imposed upon in any way. Like he gave me, I suppose I've been a psychology student for the last 2 years because eventually I'm going to get my MSW to be a therapist or, marriage counselor. So I'm a little schooled in psychology, and he was a permissive parent, which like maybe I could have used a little more boundaries when I was that age, but I'm very thankful that I was given the freedom to express myself. And again, that's why it's important for me. I'm trying to do that with the band, make a space for people, because having people accept and just be like, even if I don't get what you're doing, go for it. Like, if that's what you want to do it. Like, he didn't always get what I liked. Like, he might not have even wanted me to, but he always respected my autonomy as an individual. And he wasn't trying to make me his son. So I credit most of the good lessons and things I've learned in life from my dad, but none of it was religious or based out of the Bible at all, because it doesn't need to be. Like, you could teach, like, I'm not religious, but like I respect the type of Christian, let's put it that way, that sees Jesus as a symbol of respecting others and being sympathetic and helping. I have a lot less respect and sympathy for Christians that impose their will on others and use the Bible or their religion as a cudgel or as a way to judge or control others. And I don't believe, Jesus was a historical figure. So I don't believe the real Jesus was known for the fire and brimstone authority, because the historical records, as far as they go, would indicate that the consistencies with that character in the history books are that they did have a large following and that they did have a lot of disciples. So I believe that whoever the historical figure Jesus Christ was, even if he wasn't the actual Son of God, would have been somebody that was of goodwill and helping others. So like that's the general message of Christianity that I got from my father. It was never like, if you do this, you're a sinner. Like, sin wasn't even in my vocabulary. Like, I use that word as a sarcasm because, you know what I mean? Or like if you're actually harming other life. Like, what's actually important is preventing harm to other living beings, right? Like, not breaking magic rules because we're dealing with our souls in this system that we can't comprehend in the other world. Like, that's not a priority to me. Like, I want to help the people and the things alive here now, because I can see that needs help. Like, that's a real thing that can make a difference. Yeah. So that's what I focus on, right? And part of that is making sure people aren't being controlled by others. So I want to lead by example and show people you can do what you want. You're fine being a monster or a weirdo, like nobody should be making you feel bad about what you're doing if you're not hurting anybody else. Like, you're A-okay. So
yeah,
no, like
100%.
Feeling bad. I was only able to enjoy things I've enjoyed because I was given space to feel okay being the unique individual I am. So I really believe that people need to be respected for their individuality, and that includes their sexuality, that includes their gender expression. Like, it doesn't really matter what you're presenting yourself as to anybody, as long as you're not causing them harm. So regardless of how you're looking at it, if you're not hurting other people, man, you should be free to express yourself how you want. And I think we got a long ways to go for society to see things that way. But I'm trying to live an example to others, and a lot of people enjoy it. They think it's fun. You come to a show, and it's really fun. They see me, and in real life, because I'm not always wearing skeleton gloves, but I'm always got my hair and makeup like this. Like, I'm pretty much, punk or goth most of the time, And when people see you as an adult with a kid, I've got a 14-year-old that I bring to school. I work at the music store. It's fun for people. And so I like being one of those inspirational people that when I was a kid in Manhattan and I saw those goths and those punks with their awesome hair and their awesome studded jackets, and I'm like, holy cow, like, that's a real person. Well, I get to be that person. And I hope that when young people see me, And like you see kids looking at you sometimes, and sometimes they look scared. But I know, like when I was that age, man, I saw some people, and I just thought, wow, that is cool. And I hope I inspire some young queer kids or some young kids that like might get bullied because they're creative, because they're a theater kid or a thespian kid. They're smart and they've got something to say or do. Dude, no one should be giving them shit for that. They should feel proud. They need an outlet and an example to see you can do this. This is something that you could do. Whatever you can imagine, you should go do it. Like,
so
fuck people telling you not to do it because it's weird or because it's queer or because it's gay. Like, we don't need that. People don't need to be hearing any of that bullshit at all.
So I'm curious because you said you have a 14-year-old. So how does your 14-year-old feel about that? Because I can remember being 14, and I remember like often being like embarrassed by my parents, like, oh my god, like, why are you doing that? Oh my goodness, why are you doing that? What's your relationship with your kid, and your kid is at that age?
So she's my daughter. She's her father's daughter for sure. So she's more talented and cooler than I ever was at her age. She actually filled in on bass for my band last Saturday at our show at Gabe's because my regular bassist wasn't able to make it. So I can actually depend on her as a competent performer and a musician, but she is kind of giving me a little bit of flack, just for maybe bad timing. Not bad timing, like there's nothing bad about it. But yeah, she's a teenage girl. Everything her dad does is embarrassing. So, being like this queer monster character and like kind of, living it up a bit, I think maybe wears on her. But she's got good patience. And more importantly, she's a performer and a competent musician. So she is happy at the opportunities, that she's been provided. And she's working on her own song in a studio.
And she gets it. She's an artist. She gets it.
Yep. And she's got her own stuff she's working on. So she gives me a little flack, as every teenager is going to do. But she is actually very supportive, and I'm lucky I can ask my kid to fill in for me in my band. I mean, who else gets to do that? Like, I'm blessed. I couldn't be more proud.
No, absolutely. So you said you just came out as queer in like the last couple of years. How did that happen? Like, or how did that come? Like, yeah.
I don't know. So Iowa City in the state of Iowa is like one of a few blue dots demographically. We have the University of Iowa here in town. The capital, Des Moines, is another blue dot politically. So Iowa City was known, I think, for a time as the lesbian capital of America. I mean, literally, statistically, like it was the most lesbians per capita in the city, more than San Francisco. Okay. So, and there was my ex-wife is older than myself, and she has a gay cousin, Wally, who lives in San Francisco. And there was, for a time in the 80s and 90s, a pretty consistent circuit between Frisco and Iowa City. And there are still people here in Iowa City that are from that circuit. So like from the townies and the old world Iowa City is like what I refer to it. Because I'm not really a townie. I wasn't born here, but I've been here since 99. And everything here, just like everywhere else in America, is gentrified. So it's changed. But yeah, there's a big queer community in Iowa City. And so in the 80s, when that was more significant because we were more underdogs, like than we have been at other points in recent history. Frisco and Iowa City had a connection. So anyway, gosh, I kind of got off topic there. What did you ask me about?
No, I was just asking, like, how did you, like, your whole coming out?
Coming out.
Like, yeah.
So it was like being in this area, I've known queer people, and, like I had actual encounters, in my teens, early 20s. So, and I wasn't out, I wasn't ever in a relationship with a guy. And again, I'm not just talking about my sexual orientation. It's also like the way I presented myself. Like I was goth, but I've always been like, like a little saucy and a little femmy. But culture back then, at least for me, didn't feel the way it does now. So I didn't feel as comfortable being out. And I am primarily into women. Like I'm okay with men and like men in some circumstances, but I am mostly into women. So from a practical standpoint, I didn't have as much of a personal desire or need, I guess, to feel seen that way. But that has changed as I've aged, because feeling as if I need to hide part of myself because of the flack I get from it became an untenable position for me to hold. And
Right.
I basically, like, and again, that's kind of where my punk attitude like comes into play, because now I'm of the attitude where I'm not in your face about it. You know, you hear people complain about, oh, like I don't like people being all about, is that their identity? I can understand that. You know, some people, and we're not talking about just queer people, anybody. Some people can be really annoying about their thing, right? So like I see that as like that can sometimes be a legitimate complaint, and I don't want to be that way. But I will be direct and I make it clear to you that I am queer, because I'm also your friend, and I'm also your salesperson, and I'm also your neighbor, and I'm also the parent of another kid at school.
Shit.
And I might look weird and I might act kind of funny compared to what you think is normal. But when I put it in your face like that and I own it, I'm not going to let you make me feel weird about it. So if you're going to dare to give me some sort of flack or shit, I'm going to call you out right the fuck then for being rude to me, because I am not going to tolerate that, and you are off base. So yeah, like again, if I'm not hurting you, whatever I'm doing is fine, and whatever you're doing is fine. So I'm not going to get up in your face and tell you how you should be living your life, you know, your culture, your lover, your fashion, your sexuality. None of that is anybody's business, and
Right.
your business. So as long as you're not telling me what to do, man, we're copacetic. Like we're brothers and sisters. Like let's party and have fun. But don't you be telling me what to do, because I'm not telling you what to do. Like you won't ever hear me telling you what you need to be doing. You know, like as long as you're not hurting anybody, have at it. Have at it.
100%. So what does being queer mean to you? Because it seems that what's interesting to me about the way that people use queer now, like I remember queer being kind of a thing that like gay and lesbian people were like, we're retaking, you know, this term that was used to disparage us, and we're gonna take it back.
Mm-hmm.
And now it seems like it's a much broader term. So what does being queer mean to you?
So my understanding and the way that I use it as an umbrella term for anyone that isn't heteronormative cisgender. Like, you know, because that is statistically, you know, I've learned in college, that's the vast majority of the population, something like 85, 95%, you know. So that we're talking about 8 billion people, okay? So even 0.1% of the population is millions of humans, okay? Like this numbers game is never a reason to invalidate anybody's experience or even rank, right? So let's make that very clear. But what I'm saying is representation matters, right? So queer is anyone that isn't this vast majority, but it's important that we represent ourselves and normalize it, because when you're part of the majority, you have the convenience and the privilege of not being aware of other people's experiences. And because of that, those people, marginalized groups, right, of any stripe, queer, race, sex, there's all sorts of ways, you know, that people get the shaft and get forgotten. Like all of these people need to represent themselves. So queer is kind of at this point, I think, become an umbrella term for everyone in solidarity, saying whatever your otherness is, we all have to stick together because we are just as valuable as everybody else. And I think it's important to be normal and not necessarily activist, because for some people, like they're turned off by the activism message and like, you know, delivery of information. If you can just be somebody's regular friend, you know, their regular neighbor, that over time you show them through a relationship that you're just like them, and you don't just look different, you do live a different lifestyle. You know what I mean? Like you do drive a weird car, or you do have like a bunch of people over at your house every once in a while. You know what I mean? Like it's all okay. Like we need to demonstrate to one another that we can all get along and that we're all of equal value. So being queer is living genuinely, but it has to be like, I'm not choosing to put the message out there. What I'm doing is I'm rising to meet the challenge of the inconvenience of facing the negative consequences of being out, because it's worth it to me to be a representative, to try to make a difference to the people that I can, and to show other people that, like myself when I was younger, don't feel comfortable to do it. I've had several people recently, and it always touches me because I don't think of myself as a hero, or I guess I am trying to be a role model. That's what I'm telling you right now, right? But in kind of a general sense. But I've had musicians in the area and other young people reach out to me and just tell me in their own way, like how I've inspired them to keep being the way they are, or that they just wanted me to know that they saw me and they were really appreciative that there was other queer musicians on the scene, right?
Right.
And when I get messages like that, it took me a long time to be comfortable being out, and it's not always comfortable, okay? Like, this is not a blue state. I can drive 30 minutes in any direction here, and I could walk somewhere and like get beat the fuck up if I want to really try. You know what I mean? For not really. It's not totally safe everywhere. It's not bad, and I always say safe. But what I'm saying is, leading by example and showing other people, standing in solidarity as just existing, that is actually important, you know? And again, people don't understand that. So when I use that word, it usually starts a conversation. Like you had mentioned, I've had some boomers, like actual boomer generation people, be kind of confused and uncomfortable because at that period in time, it was a slur. I mean, that was like the N word. People. Like, and that's what it meant. And it wasn't a good word. And I don't think gay people really adopted it a whole lot back then, you know, as much. So I'm glad that it's been taken back, because it's more of a neutral, you know, and technical term that I feel makes sense. And it's also about being genuine, because we're all most comfortable when we're able to be ourselves. And I'm really not into being masculine. I've never been into that. I've never liked it. It's never been what I want to do. Like, I've really more related to girls and women. I've wanted to be pretty more than I want to be handsome, you know, but society didn't give me a way to feel comfortable with that. So I modified it and changed it to mainstream myself enough. And that is so hard, and it's a shame and a waste, and it wears on you. And I wasted so many years of my life that I could have enjoyed more. And again, being queer and being out about it, and I'm not being loud and proud, but I am not ashamed or embarrassed of myself in any way. Like, even wearing outfits like this, some people think it's weird. You're like, oh man, like you're wearing that outfit on Facebook. Like, do you ever feel weird? I'm like, I think I'm pretty fit for my age. Like, I feel confident with the way I look. Like, actually, I think I look good, you know, and other people will say you're being immature, as if being creative and having fun and dressing up is a matter of age. You know, this is another thing. As a queer man, okay, women in our society, on the whole, are given fashion throughout their entire lives now, okay? Like, please don't come after me, women and feminists. Like, I love you so much more than men. Oh no, never said that.
Now, do you mind if I put it on right there? The one way.
Oh yeah. That's
yeah.
my Hedwig tattoo. Yeah,
Yeah.
You see this? I just got this Hedwig tattoo. Like, it's modified for my personal version. It's kind of like The Stranger, because I've got like a purple and green eye on it. But yeah, like Hedwig, that movie meant a lot to me, and I got to see a live rendition of it shortly after I was introduced to the movie. So yeah. Anyway, you threw me off there, Carl.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. It's all such fun stuff to talk about, you know? But yeah, dang, I forgot what
You
point I
were
was
talking about queerness and
it's the male.
women have the opportunity to
Yeah.
like have
So-
fashion, and men
Mature
don't in the
women in
same
their
way.
teens, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s can all wear pants or shorts or skirts or dresses or bikinis or one pieces, pumps, sandals, flip-flops, boots, shoes, tennis shoes, stilettos.
And we
They-
have button downs, Oxford shirts, and polo shirt. Like, that's
Yeah. You've got
it.
shorts or pants. Like, I mean, we don't get to express ourselves. Like, our culture does not let men, and especially at this age, when you're younger and you're alternative or goth or queer or whatever, society lets you have your fun because you're young, but
Well,
let me tell
now
you,
they do
I
because 20 years ago they didn't. Like when I was in high school, like a guy
good
couldn't
point.
wear
Good.
like a skirt, like you know what I mean? Like wearing a kilt would be like weird.
I
know?
have just personally in the past 3 or 4 months, like I have gone out publicly 4 or 5 times in dress. I wore a dress to my company party earlier this year because the company I work at is very big on inclusivity, and like I am so thankful that they give me a space to be myself. I mean, like I was at work like this today earlier, like with my hair and makeup. Like I get to wear makeup to work, and my manager told me if I wanted to wear a skirt or a dress, that's totally cool. So again, Iowa City. This is West Music, by the way. This company is like awesome. Like I could say enough good things about them. It's a family-owned company. Like I'm lucky enough to work at the home office. Like they're inclusive, like awesome, music company. But again, this is another example of I'm only able to do what I do because other people, other businesses, my family are giving me a space to do it. So like what I'm trying to represent, I'm not trying to be political queer about my queerness with my band, but I am queer, and it's actually a cool part of me, and it's tied to my creativity and my sensuality and my passion, and all of that is present in my performance. And if you like my performance, you're automatically okay with queer people. You found a way that you're like, okay, it's not that bad. I actually really like this, and that's really the point of it. If you come to a show, even if you're not queer, even if you don't know about all this political lingo and you don't want to think about it, you'll know that I'm not straight, and you'll know you had a good time and that you like me and that you liked the show. And now you've got a real positive connection to the queer community, and you've got an example that you've lived that's like, well, they're not that bad. Like I was at this one show and like it's not all like you might think. You know what I'm saying? Like
No,
'cause
100%. It's about because anything like anything, it's always about whether it's queerness, whether it's lesbians, whether it's gay people, it's always about understanding or like knowing somebody or like experiencing and like, oh my God, this is no different than anything else that I would ever experience. So I totally understand what you're saying.
But so a lot of, again, not calling out or putting down heteronormative people or straight people, right? But when that is your mode, society and everything does cater to you so much that you don't even have to think about what your mode is. You just think, oh, this is all normal. So
100%. It's what's it called? It's like privilege, right? You know how people talk about like white privilege and it's
yeah,
that thing. It's that
but that's
thing that
hard.
you don't you don't have to think like in your mind. You've been conditioned to think that this is the way that things always are,
you
and
just
so
take
when
it all
you
for granted because it's always been.
yeah.
Like that's how I grew up as a white male, like for sure. And I see, like, and I like to talk about it. Privilege is scary. Privilege is a threat. Like whether like it's not easy to accept that you have privilege and to admit it, much less to admit it to everyone else, especially when a lot of other people are yelling privilege at you, right? So like definitely went through a struggle like as a white guy, like coming to terms with everything. But like I have come to terms with it. And like I personally, I am not invested in or putting any energy into being a white man at all. Like I gave away some of that by coming out, like that changes it. So like I can tell some of my privilege is gone, but I've got all the other privilege stuff. Like it's the thing, that's what I feel like for me. So everyone else that sees things that way, like I'm on even ground with them. I'm not trying to preach to other people about it. I don't want to come off as antagonistic, but I'm living what I perceive to be truth, and I cannot deny the truths that I see and am aware of. I'm not as holy as actual vegans that don't use any animal products, but I recently, like last year as well, around the time that I came out, I made an attempt to really stop eating as much animal products as I can. So that was only after just watching a few videos about the animal agriculture industry and the dairy industry specifically. I was just unaware for 40 years of my life how brutal they were. And when I realized how brutal they were, that knowledge just made it untenable to keep doing it. Like, I don't want to support it and be a part of it. So really, like, the privilege and, you know, the racial justice, the gender justice, sex, all of these issues are really just about people not being treated with dignity, not being given the same opportunities, and being taken care of the way that other people are without ever even having to think about it. At its simplest, that's all it is, because we are all the same animal. We're the same. We're all cells of the same being. Like, we're all humans. Culture is different. Sex is different. Genders are different. Yes, there's differences between us all. So our society should take into account all of that, because we are all the same thing. So, like, there's people, it can be easy to get tricked into believing that we do have insurmountable differences, but it's bullshit, because we're all literally the exact same thing. You know, like, your DNA, you know, as I'm sure you know, is like, there's like a 0.2% difference. Every human has the exact same.
Well, it's like if you have like a tabby cat,
Maybe
a
it's not
black
DNA.
cat,
I think it is
they're all cats. They're all cats at the end of the day. Like,
yeah. So, so the only true greater good worth serving or pursuing after you've learned enough is to prevent harm to all. Like, you've got to let go of these sides. You got to let go of these identities that, like, keep you from being like everybody else. Like, because I've been an outsider my whole life. It's hard. It makes you sad. You feel left out. You feel alone. And then, you know, I've struggled with this at some points in my life. I'm fine. Like, I'm still very privileged and blessed right now. Like, I have plenty of things to be happy about. My life's way better than it has been in the past, and way better than a lot of other people's lives. Like, I don't get to really complain about anything. I know that I have it good, right? I lost my train of thought. Oh my God.
While you're figuring out your train of thought, like, so what was the moment that made you say, I'm a queer person and I'm going to come out as a queer person and I'm going to live my life as a queer person?
It wasn't just a moment, but I guess it was just like the decision to come out was like, I was just tired of hiding it and suppressing it. And I was doing the band and, like, dressing up and having fun and, like, doing all the set pieces. Like, I custom made these, like, Fog Geyser grave plots and went to all this trouble because it's fun, right? And, like, being queer is fun. Like, wearing fun fashion and makeup and playing with my hair and playing with the way that I act in public.
Yeah. I think I sent you, Carl, did I send you that meme? And it was like gay guys in the 80s. And it was like, you know, George Michael and people like him. And they were all like trying to like be as straight as possible. And then they were like straight guys in the 80s. And it was like a list. And it was like a list of like, and they showed all the hairband guys. And they were all wearing like mascara and...
I had a glam band for a while. Like, I had hair naturally when it's really long. I was totally rocking that 80s glam rock look. I love it.
But it was just funny in talking about this. Like, it was like the gay guys were trying to not show anyone that they were feminine at all. Whereas, like, the straight guys were like wearing long hair and wearing lipstick and wearing mascara and wearing rouge and wearing, you know, and so it's interesting.
And you brought up the glam rock too, right? Even in hard rock and metal, right? As we all know, like Judas Priest, rock and goth music brought kink and fetish, like, fashion into the scene. And that's another reason I like punk rock and goth music. Like, you know, like the straps and harnesses. I just saw some excerpt of an interview somewhere on the internet, you know, by one of the OG punk or goth bands, but they were like getting the leather harnesses and stuff for the costume shows, like, from the sex shops. Like, they were buying them from the fetish shop. Because, like, there wasn't anywhere else to get that. So, like, and nobody else had seen it, because if you weren't in the kink community, you didn't know anything
about it.
So people just thought it was stage costume stuff, but it was real kink gear because they were just repurposing it. Like, That's really cool.
They weren't seeing it as fashion. It sounds like it was just literally these are the tools.
Yeah.
Tools.
Yeah, yeah. And it's like,
Totally.
and that became so mainstream. Like, look how mainstream pyramid studded belts still are. Like, that's kink, honey, in your everyday life. And that's okay. It's okay because that's another common, regular flavor of humans. We don't need to
Yes,
be shaming each other for that.
100%.
You know what I mean?
Listen, I hate to cut you off, but we actually are at the end of our time, and I could talk to you forever and ever.
Oh, I
and
can
ever.
tell. I can tell.
But tell us, where can we find you? Where can we find Next to Midnight? Where can we find online what you're doing?
Oh, yeah. So I have a website, nexttomidnight.com. We're updating it because we're picking up some shows. We're only in our third year. So I've got a big Halloween show at the end of the year. We'll have more details about it on the website, as well as Carl's helping me work on a trailer video that is going to explain the backstory of these characters. It's gonna be a cinematic trailer. And you can also find us on Facebook, Next to Midnight, TikTok, Next to Midnight Band, Instagram, Next to Midnight Band. Look for the green headstone with the purple name logo. And keep your eyes out and ears out on social media for Next to Midnight events coming up because we're just getting started.
Awesome. Well, it's been so great getting acquainted with you. And I hope we can continue chatting with each other again. Like you're so wonderful. And
so
come
much.
back. And anytime you want to come back and you're working on a new project or something, please come back.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe sometime I could perform a live song for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Would love it. And thank you all in Radioland for joining us. And we'll see you next week for another episode of Showtime with Jordan Van Haslo and Friends on Hot 702.5 FM.
Be there
Las
or be
Vegas.
there.
I think this is when you stop the live recording, Carl.